Maren had been singing to the wolves for 3 years before anyone discovered her secret. It started by accident. She had been crying in the forest. Another day of being invisible, another night of being forgotten, when a wolf appeared at the edge of the clearing. She had frozen, certain she was about to die. Instead, the wolf sat down and watched her with golden eyes that seemed far too intelligent. Maren, not knowing what else to do, had started to sing her mother's lullaby, the one she barely remembered, from a time before her parents died and left her in the care of an aunt who saw her as nothing but a burden. She sang it softly, her voice cracking with tears, expecting the wolf to attack at any moment. The wolf tilted its head. Then, impossibly, it began to howl along, not attacking, not threatening, harmonizing. Maren had returned to that clearing every night since. The wolves came, sometimes one, sometimes a dozen, sometimes more. They emerged from the shadows like ghosts, their golden eyes gleaming in the darkness, and they waited for her to sing. When she did, they joined her. Their howls wove through her melodies, creating something wild and beautiful and utterly impossible. It was the only time Maren felt like she existed, the only time anyone, anything, seemed to want her presence. So she kept it secret, kept it sacred, kept this one piece of magic that belonged only to her, until tonight. They only sing for my mate. Maren's voice died in her throat. The wolves around her went silent, their ears pricking toward the shadows at the edge of the clearing. A figure emerged from the darkness. He was enormous, taller than any man she'd ever seen, with shoulders that blocked out the moonlight and a presence that made the air feel thick. His hair was black as the night around them, his jaw sharp as a blade, his eyes were gold, the same burning gold as the wolves. "Who are you?" Maren's voice came out as a whisper. "I think you know." He stepped closer, and the wolves parted for him like water around a stone. "I think you've always known, somewhere in your heart, that these wolves weren't ordinary." Maren's legs trembled. She should run. She should scream. She should do something other than stand frozen while this stranger walked toward her with predator's grace. "You're the Lycan king." "Fenris." He stopped a few feet away, his golden eyes studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "And you're the woman who's been singing to my pack for 3 years." "I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'll stop. I'll never come back." "Why would I want you to stop?" The question stunned her into silence. "I've been searching for you," Fenris continued. "For 3 years, my wolves have come home singing. Melodies I've never heard, harmonies that shouldn't be possible. They've been happier, calmer, more connected than ever before." He tilted his head, studying her. "They told me about a human woman who came to the forest at night, a woman with a voice that called to their souls. Wolves can't talk. Mine can, in their own way." He gestured at the pack around them. "They've been trying to lead me to you for months. I finally listened." Maren's heart hammered against her ribs. "What do you want?" "I want to understand." Fenris moved closer, and Maren forced herself not to retreat. "Wolves don't harmonize with humans. They don't sit at the feet of strangers and sing. What you're doing, what they're doing for you, it should be impossible." "I don't know why they do it. I just sing, and they join." "What do you sing?" "My mother's lullaby, songs I remember from childhood, melodies I make up when I can't sleep." Maren's voice cracked. It's the only time I feel like I matter. The only time anything seems to notice I exist. Something shifted in Fenris's expression. Something that looked almost like pain. No one notices you? I'm invisible. The words spilled out before she could stop them. My parents died when I was 7. My aunt took me in because she had to, not because she wanted to. I live in her house, eat her scraps, wear her cast-offs. No one sees me. No one talks to me. I'm just... Her voice broke. I'm nothing. You're not nothing. Fenris's voice was fierce. You're standing in a clearing surrounded by wolves who would die for you. You have a gift that shouldn't exist, a connection to my kind that I've never seen in 400 years of living. He stepped closer still. That's not nothing, Maren. That's extraordinary. She blinked. How do you know my name? The wolves told me. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. They've been calling you the Singing One for years. Tonight I finally heard your aunt call you in for dinner. You didn't go. She doesn't actually want me there. She just likes to pretend she's a good guardian when the neighbors can hear. Then come with me instead. Maren's breath caught. What? Come with me. To my castle. Let me understand this gift of yours. His eyes held hers. Let me show you what it means to be seen. You don't know me. Why would you? Because my wolves don't sing for strangers. They don't harmonize with enemies. They don't spend 3 years protecting someone unless... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Unless what? Unless they recognize something their king has been too blind to see. He held out his hand. Maren looked at it. At the wolves, watching with those golden eyes. At the forest that had been her only sanctuary for 3 years. Then she looked at her life. At the aunt who didn't want her. At the town that didn't see her. At the endless, crushing loneliness that had been her companion since childhood. What did she have to lose? She took his hand. Fenris's fingers closed around hers, warm and strong and impossibly gentle. The wolves have been singing your name for 3 years, he said softly. It's time you learned why. He led her into the darkness, and the wolves fell into step around them, an honor guard of golden eyes and silver fur, escorting their singing one to a destiny she never could have imagined. Maren had come to the forest, looking for solace. She was leaving it with something far more dangerous. Hope. The journey through the forest felt like a dream. Maren walked beside the Lycan king, her hand still clasped in his, while wolves flowed around them like a silver river. They moved without sound, without menace, their golden eyes gleaming with something that looked almost like joy. They're happy, she observed. They've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Fenris glanced at her, and in the moonlight, his harsh features looked almost soft. Longer than you know. What does that mean? It means there's much to explain, but not here, not in the dark. He squeezed her hand gently. At the castle, where you can be warm and fed and safe. Then we'll talk. Safe. The word echoed in Maren's mind. She couldn't remember the last time she'd felt safe. Certainly not in her aunt's house, where every glance was a reminder of her unwelcomeness. Not in town, where people looked through her like she was made of glass. But here, surrounded by wolves who had sung with her for 3 years, walking beside a king who looked at her like she mattered. Here, she felt something she hadn't felt since her parents died. Home. You're crying, Fenris said. Maren touched her cheek, surprised to find it wet. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Don't apologize. Not for tears. Not for anything. His voice was gentle, so different from the cold authority she'd expected from a king. You've been alone for a long time, haven't you? Since I was 7. Then you're allowed to feel whatever you need to feel. There's no judgment here. They walked in silence for a while, the only sounds the soft padding of wolf paws and the rustle of wind through the trees. What happens when we reach the castle? Maren finally asked. That depends on you. Fenris glanced at her. I have suspicions about what you are, about why the wolves respond to you the way they do, but I won't force answers on you. I won't demand anything. He stopped walking and turned to face her. You've spent your whole life being invisible. I want to change that. But only if you want it changed. What if I don't like the answers? Then you can leave. I'll give you gold, safe passage, a new life somewhere no one knows your name. His golden eyes held hers. But I don't think you'll want to leave, Maren. I think you've been waiting for this moment as long as my wolves have. She didn't know what to say, so she simply nodded, and they continued walking. The castle appeared through the trees like a vision. Towers of dark stone reaching toward the stars, windows glowing with warm light, smoke curling from chimneys into the cold night air. Home, something whispered in her heart. This is home. Maren didn't understand how she knew that, but she did. The castle was nothing like Maren had imagined. She had expected cold stone and colder hearts. A fortress built for war, filled with creatures who would see her as prey. Instead, she found warmth, fires blazing in every hearth, tapestries in rich colours covering the walls, servants who bowed to her, as Fenris led her through the corridors. They're staring, she whispered. They've been waiting for you. Fenris's voice was matter of fact. The wolves who visit your clearing are part of my personal guard. They've been telling stories about the singing woman for 3 years. You're something of a legend here. A legend? I'm nobody. You're the woman who made wolves sing in harmony. That's not nobody. He stopped before a heavy oak door. These will be your chambers, adjacent to the royal suite in case you need anything. Maren pushed open the door and forgot how to breathe. The room was enormous. A bed draped in velvet and furs, windows that overlooked moonlit gardens, a fireplace already crackling with warmth, a wardrobe that, when she opened it, was full of gowns in colours she had only ever dreamed of wearing. How did you... I've been preparing for your arrival for some time. The wolves were quite specific about what you might like. A hint of amusement coloured his voice. Apparently you once told them you wished you could wear something green. There are 7 green dresses in that wardrobe. Maren's eyes burned. I didn't think anyone was listening. The wolves always listen. They've been your guardians since the first night you sang to them, whether you knew it or not. Fenris stepped into the room, keeping a respectful distance. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we'll talk. I'll answer every question you have. And if I have questions now? Then ask. I won't refuse you anything. Maren turned to face him. In the firelight, he looked less terrifying and more tired, like the weight of centuries pressed down on his shoulders. Why do the wolves respond to me? What am I? Fenris was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed to the window, staring out at the moonlit grounds. 400 years ago, there was a woman, a human woman with a gift. A voice that could reach the souls of wolves, could harmonize with their most primal instincts. She was my grandmother. Maren's heart stuttered. Your grandmother was human. Half human. My grandfather, the first Lycan king, found her in circumstances not unlike yours. singing to wolves who shouldn't have listened, creating music that shouldn't have existed. He turned to face her. She was his mate. The bond between them created the royal bloodline, the connection between Lycan kings and their packs that has persisted for generations. What happened to her? She died giving birth to my father. The gift died with her, or so we thought. His golden eyes met hers. In 400 years, no human has ever been able to do what she did. Until you. Marin's legs gave out. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her mind reeling. You think I'm… what? Her descendant? I think you're something even rarer. Fenris crossed to her, kneeling before her so their eyes were level. The gift my grandmother had wasn't just about blood. It was about souls. She was, in the old language, a veil singer, someone whose voice could bridge the gap between human and wolf. And you think I'm one too? I know you are. The wolves confirmed it the first night you sang. They've been protecting you ever since, waiting for the right moment to bring you to me. Why? Why would they wait? Why would they care? Fenris hesitated. Something flickered in his golden eyes. Uncertainty, maybe. Or fear. Because Veilsingers don't appear by accident. They appear when they're needed, when the pack is calling for something it lacks. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. When the king is incomplete. Marin's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that my wolves have been singing your name for 3 years. I'm saying that the first time I heard your melody echoed in their howls, something in my chest cracked open. I'm saying… He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. I'm saying that veil singers only bond with one person in their entire lives, and the wolves believe that person is me. The room spun. Marin gripped the edge of the bed, trying to anchor herself. You think I'm your mate? I think you might be. I think the wolves have known since the beginning. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. But I won't force anything on you. I won't demand acceptance or expect devotion. You've spent your whole life being invisible, having no choices. I won't take your choices away. What do you want from me? Time. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Time to know each other. Time to understand what this connection means. Time for you to decide if you want it. He met her eyes. I've waited 400 years for someone like you. I can wait longer if you need it. Marin looked at him. This ancient, powerful king, kneeling at her feet, asking for nothing but a chance. I don't know how to be anyone's mate, she said quietly. I don't know how to be wanted. I've been invisible so long, I don't even know who I am without the invisibility. Then let's find out together. Fenris squeezed her hand. No pressure, no expectations. Just time. To discover who you are when someone's actually looking. Tears slipped down her cheeks. You keep saying things like that. Things that make me want to believe you. Then believe me, even if it's hard, even if it's terrifying. He rose to his feet, but didn't release her hand. I'm not going anywhere, Marin. I've been waiting 4 centuries for you. I'm not about to give up now. He pressed a kiss to her knuckles, gentle, reverent, like she was something precious, and then released her. Rest. I'll see you in the morning. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Marin sat on the edge of the bed, her hand still tingling where his lips had touched. She had come to the forest looking for solace. She had found something else entirely. A king who saw her, a destiny she never imagined, and a voice that might just be the key to everything. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, She stood at the window and watched the wolves patrol the grounds below. They looked up at her, their golden eyes gleaming. And somewhere in the distance, she heard them singing. Her melody. The lullaby she had shared with them for 3 years. They were singing it back to her. Welcome home, the song seemed to say. We've been waiting for you. Maren pressed her hand to the cold glass and smiled through her tears. For the first time in her life, she believed it. The following days unfolded like pages from a storybook Maren had never been allowed to read. Fenris was patient beyond measure. He didn't push, didn't demand, didn't expect anything she wasn't ready to give. He simply showed up. Every morning with breakfast, every afternoon with a walk through the gardens, every evening with stories about his kingdom, his people, his life. And always, always, the wolves were there. They followed her everywhere, not threatening, but protective. They slept outside her door at night. They accompanied her through the castle during the day. They looked at her with those golden eyes, and she could have sworn they were smiling. "They adore you," Fenris said one morning, watching 3 wolves vie for the chance to rest their heads in her lap. "I don't understand why." "Because you're their veil singer, their bridge to something they've been missing for 4 centuries. He crouched beside her, scratching behind one wolf's ears. "They've been waiting for you to complete them. To complete all of us." Maren looked at him. This king who had conquered kingdoms and commanded armies, now kneeling beside her like she was the one with all the power. "Including you?" "Especially me." His golden eyes met hers. "I didn't know what I was missing until I heard your song in their howls. Now I can't imagine going back to the silence." Her heart ached with something she was only beginning to recognize. Hope, yes, but also something deeper. Something that felt terrifyingly like love. 3 weeks after arriving at the castle, Maren sang for Fenris for the first time. It happened without planning. They were in the garden at twilight, surrounded by wolves who had gathered to watch the sunset with their veilsinger. The sky was painted in shades of gold and crimson, and something in Maren's chest swelled until it needed release. She opened her mouth, and her mother's lullaby spilled out. The wolves joined immediately, their howls weaving through her melody like they had 1,000 times before. But this time, something was different. This time, Fenris was there. He went utterly still, his golden eyes fixed on her face, his expression transforming from surprise to wonder to something that looked almost like reverence. The wolves sang, and Maren sang, and the garden filled with music that shouldn't have existed. When the last note faded, Fenris was trembling. "I've heard them echo your songs for 3 years," he said, his voice rough. "But I didn't know." He stopped, seemingly unable to find words. "Didn't know what?" "How it would feel, hearing you directly." He crossed to her, his movements unsteady for the first time since she'd met him. "Maren, you are... I'm just me. It's just a lullaby." "No." He took her hands, gripping them like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. "That was magic. Real magic. The kind that hasn't existed in this kingdom for 4 centuries. His eyes burned into hers. "You're not just a veil singer. You're the veil singer. The one the prophecies talked about." Prophecies. My grandmother, before she died, she told my grandfather that another would come. Someone who could do what she did, but more. Someone who could heal the rift between humans and wolves that had been widening since her death. His hands tightened on hers. Someone who would complete the king's soul and strengthen the pack's bond beyond anything it had ever been. You think that's me? I know it's you. He released one of her hands to cup her face. I've known since the moment I saw you in that clearing. I've been fighting it, trying to give you space, trying not to overwhelm you. But hearing you sing, feeling what your voice does to my soul. He shook his head. I can't fight it anymore. Then don't. The words escaped before Maren could stop them. But she didn't want to stop them. She didn't want to fight this anymore either. I've spent my whole life being invisible, she said, being nothing. And then you found me. And suddenly I'm a legend, a prophecy, someone who matters. It should be terrifying. Is it? Yes. She smiled through the tears gathering in her eyes. But it's also wonderful. You're wonderful. The way you look at me, the way you listen, the way you've given me space to find myself, instead of demanding I become what you need. You already are what I need. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You've always been. I was just waiting for you to see it too. I see it now. She rose on her toes, closing the distance between them. I see you, Fenris. All of you. And I... She kissed him. It was clumsy and desperate, and nothing like the kisses she'd read about in stolen books. But the moment their lips met, something exploded in her chest. The wolves around them threw back their heads and howled, not in alarm, but in joy, in celebration, in recognition. Fenris pulled her closer, deepening the kiss, and Maren felt something click into place, like a key turning in a lock, like a puzzle piece finally finding where it belonged. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she laughed. The wolves approve, she observed. The wolves have been trying to push us together for 3 years. Fenris pressed his forehead to hers. They knew before either of us did. They're smarter than we are. Much smarter. He pulled back to look at her, his golden eyes soft with emotion. I love you, Maren. I've loved you since the first time your song echoed in their howls. I'll love you for the rest of eternity if you'll let me. The words hit her like a wave, overwhelming, transformative, impossible to resist. I love you too. Saying it felt like freedom, like finally finding the melody she'd been searching for her whole life. I didn't think I was capable of it. I didn't think anyone could love me. But you, I love you, he repeated. Every part of you. The invisible girl who sang to wolves. The veil singer who healed my pack. The woman who's going to stand beside me and change everything. Change what? The kingdom, the world, the way humans and wolves see each other. His smile was fierce with possibility. Together, we can build something that hasn't existed for 400 years. A true partnership between our kinds. A legacy that will last forever. That sounds terrifying. It is, but you won't face it alone. He took her hands again. You'll never face anything alone again. I promise you that. Maren looked at their joined hands, at the wolves surrounding them like a silver sea, at the castle rising behind them, glowing warm in the fading light. I believe you, she said. And she did. For the first time in her life, she believed in forever. That night, Maren sang for the entire court. Fenris had asked her if she was ready, had made it clear she could refuse, could wait, could take all the time she needed. But Maren didn't want to wait anymore. She wanted to claim this new life, this new identity, this new love. The great hall was packed with Lycans of every rank, warriors and servants, nobles and common folk. They had gathered to hear the legendary veil singer, The woman their wolves had been singing about for 3 years. Maren stood at the center of the hall, Fenris beside her, and opened her mouth. She sang her mother's lullaby first, then other songs, melodies she'd made up during lonely nights, harmonies she'd discovered while singing with the wolves. Her voice filled the hall, and one by one, the Lycans began to shift. Not into attack, into harmony. They threw back their heads and joined her. Hundreds of voices, human and wolf intertwined, creating something so beautiful it brought tears to Maren's eyes. She felt their joy, their hope, their desperate longing finally being satisfied. This was what she was meant for. This was who she was meant to be, the invisible girl who sang the wolves home. When the last note faded, the hall erupted in cheers. Lycans she had never met approached her with tears streaming down their faces, telling her they had waited their whole lives for this moment, that she had healed something in them they hadn't known was broken. And through it all, Fenris stood beside her, his hand warm in hers, his eyes blazing with love and pride. "My queen," he murmured when they finally had a moment alone. "My veil singer. My heart." "My king," she whispered back. "My wolf. My home." She had come to his castle looking for answers. She had found so much more. She had found herself. Her aunt came for her 2 days before the bonding ceremony. Maren was in the garden with the wolves when the commotion started, shouting from the gates, guards moving with urgent purpose, a carriage bearing the crest of her hometown rolling into the courtyard. Her blood turned to ice. "What is it?" Fenris appeared beside her, his hand finding hers. "What's wrong?" "That carriage." Maren's voice came out strangled. "That's my aunt's crest." By the time they reached the great hall, Aunt Vera was already inside, her face twisted with righteous fury. Behind her stood a man Maren didn't recognize, thin, sharp-featured, wearing the robes of a magistrate. "There she is!" Vera pointed a bony finger at Maren. "The thief, the runaway. I demand she be returned to me immediately." The hall went silent. Lycans, who had been conducting business, stopped to stare. Wolves, who had been resting by the hearth, raised their heads, golden eyes narrowing. "Explain yourself." Fenris's voice was deadly calm. "And choose your words carefully." "That girl is my ward." Vera's lip curled with disgust. "She disappeared in the night without permission. She abandoned her duties, her responsibilities, her debt to my household. I've spent weeks searching for her, and now I find she's been… what? Playing queen to a pack of animals?" Maren flinched. The wolves around her growled. "She owes you nothing." Fenris stepped forward, and the temperature in the hall seemed to drop. "She was never your ward. She was your servant, your prisoner. You starved her, ignored her, treated her like she was less than nothing. I took her in when no one else would. I fed her, clothed her, gave her a roof over her head." Vera turned to the magistrate. Tell him the law." The magistrate cleared his throat nervously. "By the laws of the human territories, a guardian has rights over their ward until the age of 25, or until the ward is legally released. Miss Maren is 22. Technically, she remains under Mistress Vera's custody. Human laws have no jurisdiction here." Fenris's voice was ice. "But diplomatic treaties do." The magistrate produced a scroll. "The Treaty of Thornbrook, signed by your own grandfather, states that disputes over human citizens found in Lycan territory must be resolved according to human law unless the human in question has formally renounced their citizenship." Maren's heart sank. She hadn't renounced anything. She hadn't even known it was required. So, you see, Vera said, triumph gleaming in her eyes. The girl belongs to me. Hand her over, and we'll be on our way. Keep her, and you'll be in violation of a treaty your own bloodline signed. The hall buzzed with tension. Maren felt the wolves pressing closer around her, felt their desire to tear this woman apart. But that would mean war. That would mean breaking a treaty Fenris's grandfather had created. Maren! Fenris turned to her, his expression carefully controlled. Do you want to go with her? No. The word came out fierce and immediate. Never. I'd rather die. Then you won't. He faced Vera again, and his smile was terrifying. You're correct that the Treaty of Thornbrook applies here, but you've forgotten a crucial clause. What clause? The one that states human citizens who have been claimed as mates by Lycan royalty are automatically granted Lycan citizenship, superseding all previous human claims. His smile widened. Maren is my mate, my bonded partner. As of this moment, she is no longer a citizen of the human territories. Your laws no longer apply to her. Vera's face went white. You can't. She's not. There's been no ceremony. The ceremony is a formality. The bond itself was sealed the moment we acknowledged each other. Fenris turned to Maren, his eyes softening. Tell them what you are to me. Maren looked at her aunt, the woman who had made her life a misery for 15 years, the woman who had told her she was nothing, worthless, a burden to be tolerated. Then she looked at Fenris, at the wolves surrounding her, at the life she had built in just a few weeks. I am Maren, she said, her voice ringing clear across the hall. Veilsinger, mate to the Lycan king, and I am exactly where I belong. The wolves howled their approval. The Lycans in the hall cheered, and Vera looked like she had swallowed something rotten. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. She's nobody. She's worthless. She can't just... She is everything. Fenris's voice cut through her protests like a blade. She is the most valuable person in this entire kingdom, and you are nothing but a bitter, small woman who couldn't see treasure when it was living under your own roof. He turned to his guards. Escort these visitors out of my territory. If they ever return, treat them as hostile invaders. You can't do this, Vera shrieked as guards closed in around her. I'll tell everyone. I'll ruin her reputation. I'll make sure the whole world knows she's nothing but a... The whole world already knows what she is. Fenris's voice was soft, deadly. She's the Veilsinger who healed my pack. She's the woman my wolves have been singing about for 3 years. She's going to be my queen. He smiled. What are you going to tell them that could possibly compete with that? Vera had no answer. The guards dragged her out, the magistrates scurrying behind her. The doors slammed shut, and silence fell. Then Maren was in Fenris's arms, shaking with relief and residual fear. She found me, she whispered. She actually found me. She'll never touch you again. Fenris held her tight. No one will ever take you from me. I promise you that. The bonding ceremony. You said the bond was already sealed. It is. It has been since the moment we first kissed. He pulled back to look at her face. But I want the ceremony too. I want the whole world to see you become my queen. I want your aunt to hear about it and choke on her own bitterness. Despite everything, Maren laughed. That's petty. It's justice. He cupped her face in his hands. You deserve to be celebrated, Marin. You deserve to have everyone who ever overlooked you, dismissed you, told you that you were nothing. You deserve to have them all see exactly what you've become. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you. I love you too. He kissed her forehead. 2 days until the ceremony. 2 days until you're officially, publicly, irrevocably mine. I'm already yours. I know. His smile was soft. But I want the world to know it too. She kissed him then, fierce and desperate, and full of all the fear and relief and overwhelming love she couldn't contain. 2 days until she became queen. 2 days until the invisible girl claimed her throne. She had never been more ready for anything in her life. That night, Maren stood at her window and watched the wolves patrol the grounds below. They looked up at her, their golden eyes gleaming in the moonlight, and she could have sworn they were smiling. They had protected her from the moment she first sang to them. They had led their king to her. They had known, long before she did, exactly where she belonged. Thank you, she whispered to them, for everything. A chorus of soft howls rose in response, not the wild hunting calls she had heard in stories, but something gentler, warmer. A lullaby sung back to the woman who had given them music. Fenris found her there an hour later, still watching, still marveling at the impossible turn her life had taken. You should be sleeping, he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. I can't. My mind won't stop spinning. About your aunt. About everything. 6 weeks ago, I was invisible. I was nothing. I sang to wolves in secret because they were the only ones who would listen. She leaned back into his warmth. Now I'm going to be a queen, a veil singer, someone who matters. You always mattered. His lips brushed her temple. The world was just too blind to see it. You saw it. My wolves saw it first. They're smarter than me. She laughed, soft, wondering, still not quite believing this was her life now. I'm scared, she admitted. Not of the ceremony, not of being queen. I'm scared that I'll wake up and none of this will be real. That I'll be back in my aunt's house, invisible again, singing to wolves who only exist in my dreams. This is real. Fenris turned her to face him. I am real. The wolves are real. The love between us is real. He pressed his forehead to hers. And in 2 days, the entire world will know it. Maren closed her eyes and let herself believe. 2 days until forever began. The bonding ceremony took place under a full moon, in the same clearing where Maren had first sung to the wolves. It was Fenris's idea. He wanted to honor the place where everything began, where a lonely girl had cried into the darkness and found, against all odds, that something was listening. The clearing had been transformed. Lanterns hung from every branch, casting golden light across the snow. White flowers bloomed impossibly in the winter cold, their petals gleaming like stars. And wolves, hundreds of them, ringed the space, their golden eyes fixed on the woman at the center, their veil singer, their queen. Maren stood in a gown of silver and white, her hair loose and threaded with tiny crystals that caught the moonlight. She had never felt more beautiful, more seen, more real. Fenris waited at the altar, a simple stone covered in winter roses. He was dressed in black and silver, his golden eyes blazing with love so fierce it took her breath away. The entire kingdom had gathered to witness. Lycans from every territory, humans who had heard the stories and come to see for themselves. They formed a sea of faces beyond the wolves, all of them watching, all of them waiting. The elder who would perform the ceremony stepped forward, her white hair gleaming in the lantern light. "We gather tonight to witness a bonding," she announced. "The joining of two souls who found each other against impossible odds. The completion of a prophecy 400 years in the making." She turned to Fenris. "Fenris, king of the Lycan territories, do you claim this woman as your mate? Your equal? Your queen?" "I do." His voice rang clear through the clearing. "I claim her with every breath in my body. I will love her, protect her, and honor her for the rest of eternity." The elder turned to Maren. "Maren, Veilsinger of the Wolves, voice of harmony, do you accept this claim? Do you bind yourself to this man and this pack freely, without reservation or fear?" Maren looked at Fenris, at the wolves surrounding them, at the life she had built from nothing but a song and a desperate hope. "I do," she said, her voice strong and clear. "I accept him with my whole heart. I will stand beside him, sing for him and his pack, and love him for as long as I live." "Then let the bond be sealed." But before the elder could continue, Maren held up her hand. "Wait." She turned to face the crowd, her heart pounding. "There's something I need to do first." Fenris's brow furrowed with concern, but he nodded. "Trust. Complete and absolute." Maren opened her mouth and began to sing. Not the lullaby. Not any song she had sung before. This was something new, a melody that had been building inside her since the moment she first saw Fenris in that moonlit clearing. A song of love and loss and finding home. A song that spoke of loneliness transformed into belonging, of invisibility transformed into being seen. The wolves joined her immediately, their howls weaving through her melody like silver threads through gold. And then, impossibly, the Lycans in the crowd began to shift. One by one, they threw back their heads and added their voices to the song. Hundreds of them, thousands. Human and wolf intertwined, creating a harmony that shook the very earth beneath their feet. Maren felt the bond snap into place, not just with Fenris, but with every Lycan present. She felt their joy, their hope, their overwhelming love. She felt herself become part of something vast and ancient and endlessly beautiful. The Veilsinger and her wolves, united at last. When the song finally faded, tears were streaming down her face. Down Fenris's face, down the faces of everyone present. "By blood and moonlight," the elder declared, her voice rough with emotion. "By song and soul. These two are bound. What fate has joined, let no force sunder." Fenris pulled Maren into his arms and kissed her deeply, thoroughly, in front of everyone. The wolves howled their approval. The Lycans cheered. The moon herself seemed to shine brighter, blessing the union below. "My queen," Fenris murmured against her lips. "My Veilsinger. My heart." "My king," she whispered back. "My wolf. My home." When they finally broke apart, Fenris raised their joined hands high. "Your queen!" he roared. "The Veilsinger who healed our pack, who completed our king, who brought music back to our souls after 400 years of silence." The crowd erupted. Wolves howled, Lycans cheered. And somewhere in the chaos, Maren heard her own melody being sung back to her. Hundreds of voices carrying the song she had just created, making it part of their history forever. She had been invisible for 22 years. Now an entire kingdom was singing her name. The celebration lasted until dawn. There was feasting and dancing, and more joy than Maren had ever witnessed. People she had never met approached her with tears in their eyes, telling her that her song had healed something in them, that they had felt alone their whole lives until her voice touched their souls. Through it all, Fenris never left her side. "How do you feel?" he asked as the sun began to rise. "Like I'm dreaming, like I've been dreaming since the moment you found me in that clearing." "It's not a dream." He pulled her close. "This is real. We are real. And we have forever to prove it." 1 year later, Maren stood in the same clearing, surrounded by wolves. But this time, she wasn't alone. A daughter rested in her arms, a tiny, perfect thing with her father's golden eyes and her mother's dark hair. The baby gurgled happily as wolves pressed close, sniffing gently, welcoming the newest member of their pack. "She has your gift," Fenris said, watching with wonder as one wolf began to hum softly and the baby cooed in response. "She'll be a veil singer too. She'll be whatever she wants to be." Maren pressed a kiss to her daughter's forehead. "She'll grow up knowing she's loved, that she matters, that she's never, ever invisible. Like her mother. Like her mother learned to be." Maren looked at the clearing, the place where everything had begun, the place where she had found her voice, her love, her purpose. "I used to come here because it was the only place I felt seen. Now I come here to remember." "Remember what?" "That even the loneliest songs can find harmony. That even the most invisible people can become extraordinary." She smiled through her tears. "That sometimes the wolves are singing for you long before you know to listen." Fenris wrapped his arms around her and their daughter, holding them close. "I love you," he said. "Both of you. Forever." "Forever," Maren agreed. And in the clearing where she had once cried alone, surrounded by wolves who had known her destiny before she did, Maren began to sing her daughter's first lullaby. The wolves joined in immediately, and somewhere in the distance, carried on the winter wind, the whole kingdom sang along. The invisible girl who found her voice, the veil singer who healed a kingdom, the queen who proved that even the quietest souls can shake the world. If you loved Maren and Fenris's story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tale. Drop a comment below telling me your favorite part. I read every single one. Until next time, stay wild.